it's Sonia G. We are having this combo about galactic origins, your story, my story, why they matter. Welcome to Starborn Human. We're going to pin this comment. Let me know when you watch this, if you watch this on the replay, and chat with me while we talk about things. I'm excited to have this combo. It's about time we have it. So let's start it this way. The galactic origin is the origin point, the origination point in the cosmos, in the infinite realms of the astral planes, galactic consciousness, higher astral consciousness, universal consciousness, oneness, creator of all that is, right? That's like our origin point of all of us. But the story of our soul that pertains to us in this particular lifetime is coded in the stars, right? So I'm going to tell you why it's important here in a minute. But I want to start telling you my story of how I discovered this, okay? So that you have an understanding, because some of you have gone through this and some of you are coming up on it. And it's relevant right now as we are navigating and moving through portals and energy thresholds that have never been grounded before on this planet. As the flame consciousness is awakening, the higher priestess and priest orders are coming back to this earth, right? We are remembering, we're activating DNA strands, utilizing, plugging them into the brain, like our brain's coming online. We are running on divine circuitry more so than ever before to actually function in this reality, which is so exciting. So the way that it comes on, the way that you discover this, generally speaking, it's kind of like, do you remember when we had like your awakening and then the beginning of your ascension journey, right? It's never really, unless you're on a progressive path of expansion of your soul and you understand the infinite progression of your soul. I feel like this is something glitches in your reality and then you come up on, right? And right now we're discovering higher knowledge attached to our soul's origin story, which is where we came through to, our history in the galaxy. And it's parts of ourselves that are coming into our physical body, like in the divine embodiment of who we are. So parts of our consciousness that are through the cosmos, quote unquote. We're gonna clean this up in a minute. So when I discovered this, okay, this is the true story. I had already been on my awakening journey. I was a Reiki master. I was a life coach. I had studied NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I was certified Gestalt therapy coach, right? I had stacked all of that. I studied theta healing. Like I was doing all of the things. And this was the time period between 2007 and 2017. At the time, I was working in corporate America, and then I was also seeing clients on the sides, right? Like when we start this journey and you have like the side gig and the side hustle and whatever you want to call it. So I was living the life in the spiritual closet in so many ways, because it wasn't okay to talk about certain things at the time, yet it was time to start. So it's 2017. I fully know the frequency and I've mapped out, I understand the chakras, I understand all of these things. I understand higher self and I understand Akashic records. I am friends, right? Like I'm on a good basis with my archangels, like Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron, like grandma on the other side, my other like higher self. And I understand frequency, I understand tone, and I have vetted out, which is very important. I have vetted out and I had received proof of these things. Like people on the other side were talking to me and there were signs, right? So by now I'm like, okay, this is a thing. And in one-on-one client sessions, I was talking to, people on the other sides. Like we were talking to babies that were unborn, that were in the womb. So the magic and miracles was like phenomenal. And my psychic superpowers were rising. So one day, I am in my closet. True story. This is where I would go to meditate. At the time, I didn't have much space, and that was like the sacred space. So I'm in my closet, and I had just finished meditating, and I was getting ready for a workshop. and I was kind of late. And in that moment, as I was getting ready and I had finished my daily practice meditation, which I meditate standing up, connecting to my higher self, right? Like getting all the chakras in alignment, everything. So as I'm doing this, I hear a voice that is not an angelic voice, that is not an archangelic voice, that is not my grandma, it's not anybody from the other side. It sounds like group consciousness. And as I hear this, I'm like, whoa, and it trips me out because there's an echo to group consciousness. And so I was like, who are you? What do you want? Right? I am in a hurry. Like, I'm getting ready for this workshop. I was going to go in my pajamas. I remember so clearly this moment. And they were like, no, you have to wear this and this and this for this workshop. I was like, who? First of all, you're sounding like an echo in my head. Like, I have boundaries, like, come back and talk to me tomorrow. I had all sorts of protocols for connecting because you have to be careful. So when you listen to this, like, you have to be careful who you're talking to, right? So it's like, I haven't vetted you. I don't know you. I have things to do. And they were like, no, this is what you need to wear for what you're about to do today. And I was going to this workshop at my mentor Gary's, some of you have met him, that was called Magical Realms of the Sacred Self. And there was this process, which I didn't know that I was going to be on that day, that definitely I'm glad I didn't do in pajamas. That was called Connecting to Your God Self, okay? Stepping into your God Self power, something like that. And it's a visualization, but for me, that day is very real, right? So I'm like, okay, who am I talking to? And I was like, okay, stop. Like, who is this? And what do you want? What are you here for? And so they introduced themselves, and it's two beings, and they're Pleiadian. And I was like, I don't know what that means. At this point, I don't have star consciousness in my framework. And so I was like, what are you here to do? And they're like, we are here. And the words that I hear is, we are here to unlock. I was like, what does that mean? And I, when you're like getting ready, like you're kind of like, I was like, okay, we need to do this in a better way. But I kept hearing them. And so I was like, I don't know if you're real, if you're at this point, like it sounded so different. So I was like, I'm going to need a sign because this is what I do with everybody. I was like, so if this is real, like I want a sign. And in my intention, which I didn't voice out loud, I figured it would happen at this workshop where I was going to be in safe space, right? And everything was going to be great. But I proceeded to get dressed in different colors, and I usually do. I'll always remember that too. And I got dressed. I go towards my door, and I was with my ex-husband at the time. He goes to open the door, and the whole door handle fell apart in his hand. Like the whole thing fell apart in his hand. And I hear in my ear, unlock. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. This is not how we do signs. This is not a good time. Like you can imagine in that moment, like we had the whole thing, fall apart. It was like just a crazy experience. We got it sorted. We go to the workshop. I begin this connection, and in this moment of elevated consciousness, because whenever a group of people comes together, right, for something that's magical, and I was safer to begin to understand this connection. Well, it began there, and I was taught for a year. I meditated for like a couple hours every day, and I started establishing this rapport with these Pleiadians. What I didn't know at the time is that one of them was a part of me, right? It was my higher self. And I started downloading information, like wild manuals of knowledge. And they taught me how to unlock chakras, consciousness in chakras, and connect them to our, unwind the DNA, which carries the lock codes of consciousness that have been dormant through millennia here on planet Earth, and recode them through the higher chakras, so the chakras that are outside of our bodies, and unlock the different layers of consciousness through the chakra pillar, which is the continuation of our chakras in the body, okay? So through the years, these have been mapped, and this is my crystalline framework. And what happened through this wild experience is that I began to feel whole. Once I started mapping and I understood, at first I thought they were guides. I was like, okay, right? Like I vetted them out. It took me like a month to vet these guys out, like for real, because I'm very picky that way. And we got to the point where there was trust. There was established trust. The messages were coming through, like the things were checking out. And at one point I remember they showed me a galaxy that was being born. I was like, what am I witnessing, right? So I'm an astral traveler. So I was like, okay, let's check this out. Like, what am I feeling? What am I seeing? And the next day, I remember seeing it in an article that NASA published, and it was a galaxy that was being born. Like, things were starting to check out, right? Always do this work. Always do this work when you're connecting to higher consciousness. So, and to make sure that they're, of the highest truth and light and serving the highest divine plan for human ascension. Very important. Very important to have boundaries and frameworks. So they started teaching me different things. And I started to learn about how energy expands and how the stories of who we are through the higher chakras unfold and unwind, just like we unlock, how when we unlock our heart chakra and our higher heart, and we are balancing, and we get to experience a higher level of love. When we begin to work with our womb, our sacral chakra, and our root, right, we experience a new kind of magic. That's the magic, especially for women. We start getting into more sensuality, into more creation, and everything in like sex life gets better when you start really flowing with your chakra pillar, with all of the chakras. So at any point, right, like every chakra has a meaning, but when all of them flow together and they flow with the higher consciousness of who you are, what happens is you have this infusion of remembrance of who you are. And we're all somehow understand we have a grasp on higher self, right? You have a grasp on higher self, on galactic self, and there's a God self version of you. But what does that actually fucking mean, like for real life, like in everyday life? Well, turns out that as you begin to unlock these layers of consciousness all the way up, you begin to remember stories of your infiniteness. You begin to remember stories and codes that before life on planet Earth, you deposited in star systems. This is why everybody has been fascinated with like astrology, right? The star stuff. And there's something in there, but everybody feels like, the majority of us feels like this is a system to transcend, because it's always like we learn the rules so that we can break the rules, right? And so everything that keeps you confined in a system, eventually we are here to break, because we are the ones that came to break through this reality. So once we remember, once we learn the stories of the wheel, once we learn the frameworks that have been given to us on this planet, we are here to break through them and create higher levels of consciousness. How do you do that? You have to bring in the memories of who you are in different lifetimes. So, and those are not just, there's a linear, man, where does time go? Those are not just memories that are linear, like in your past lives on planet Earth, even though they will match, right? They will, like, past lives on planet Earth will sometimes broadcast to different lives in the stars, different lifetimes in the stars. So when you start to work with your Pleiadian self, which is one of the gateways of incarnation, it's usually when I do tracking of a soul line, so through your energy signature, and I look at what pings, where your soul is tracking to, because you can literally see this, right? Like you can track an energy signature. This is like real life. You can see what lights up and where you're pulling from, kind of like the Akashic records, but not, okay? So your soul line is pulling in information. For example, for me, it was coming through from my Pleiadian lifetime. I had to reconcile all sorts of love, my love life, everything about pleasure, about love, the way I loved, the way that I created, the way I received love, my love for the community. I had a whole heart explosion in reconciling with my Pleiadian self and remembering what it was like to live in the consciousness of Venus, right? Pleiadian lifetime, Venus, Taurus, And it was a different feeling in my body to merge in and to bring in those parts of me that had those memories and that kind of love and that kind of feeling in the body. So as I did this, and as my Pleiadian self came in, because the galactic tracking is so important, because then as we remember, the parts of who we are come and merge into our consciousness, okay? And as we do this, you have more of yourself, which means you activate more of your DNA, which means you have higher functionality in the body. Not only do you remember, right, but you're functioning on higher consciousness frameworks, which means all of a sudden your body has so much more energy. And with that energy, guess what happens? Level 1, you have better health. All of a sudden, I went from having mono, I was like down and out with mono, like all sorts of immune system stuff. I had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I was about to get surgery for endometriosis. Like my belly was like crazy. Like it hurt so much. Like everything that was like the body was turning against itself. I was worn out working the job that I was working in corporate America. I was in a relationship that was toxic and wasn't working, right? Like variables of life that we are here to shift and to heal and to transcend and to tell new stories and to write new stories. And so, like I literally am completely living a whole new different life now, but after all of these integrations, which still blows my mind. So all of a sudden I have all of this vitality, right? So it's a higher heart. When you're working with your Pleiadian self, it's a higher heart opening. And then you also really start to get into that creativity, creative flow, into creation mode. It's what a lot of people now in Ascension refer to as 5D consciousness. It's the fucking beginning. We are operating beyond 40D consciousness right now when we're really like at the edge of what's possible. Okay. So at this point, when you're integrating the first layers that you came in from, and you remember this, all of a sudden you have this like flush of divine life force energy, which really is like galactic life force energy that comes in, and you have what a lot of people, you know, refer to as miraculous healing. I stopped taking all my medications. I never had to have surgery. I never got sick again. Like it was amazing how my health shifted, and I was like, holy shit, like this is amazing. I have found the secret to like the life force energy, right? This is what Indiana Jones was after. This is like the chalice of life. Like this is amazing. So I started learning how to unlock this energy, and I was like, oh my gosh. So you go through it and weave it through the body and use it. Okay. This is the thing that happens is a lot of people will experience the higher realms, but then if you don't know how to integrate them and to make use of them and to unlock what needs to be unlocked in your body and implement it, then it's simply like an astral trip. Then you had like a medicine journey and you were like, whoa, right? But it never becomes something tangible. So I'm all about that because we're living in this physical world and life gets to be extraordinary for us, right? Because we've had the challenges to get here, like a lot of light workers, right? We have challenges early until we actually choose to break through and go limitless and go break the thresholds of this reality in order to remember who we are and what the fuck we came for. Okay. So you start to remember and you're like, whoa, I have this life before. It wasn't just my past life. It wasn't just this. I wasn't just, you know, a witch, a healer, a queen. Like I didn't just fight for this, like in this lifetime, like it's not the linear one. And at this point, I mean, in where we're at in Ascension right now and in Divine Embodiment, we know we can collapse time. We know that we can bring like quantum healing in the body. Like there's so much more opening to this. Yet remember that not very many people integrate this. When you integrate and you embody these parts of you, now the magic begins. And in order to do that, you have to figure out your physical circuitry. That's why it's always important that you understand how to not just like there's an activation, but then there's a clearing. You have to make room for the truth of who you are and clean out the distortions, the old stories, the traumas, the wounds, like all of that. We have to be willing to let go of these stories that we've carried, these like chains and balls and, you know, everything, like all of the family line stories and everything, and bring in higher consciousness, right? Like cleaning out the spiritual closet inside. So after I moved through this, in a lot of people's stories, right, by this point, I have done thousands of one-on-one sessions across the planet for so many different ones of you. So many of you have had like a one-on-one with me where we do this work, and every time we can bring in and we can rewire, we can pull records, we can see what's happened, we can see what got instilled in your consciousness, what you're meant to bring in, what you're meant to clear out, okay? And there's thresholds, and we will pull our subconscious self, our higher self, our highest self, like our intuitive compass will always pull on the star consciousness that we need to bring in right now and on the records, right? So not all the records of our story of our soul are held in the Akashic records. Those are some of them. That was like the beginning. That was like elementary school when you start to get into the field of limitless possibilities, right? And everything that's happened to be present and incarnate in this moment of now. So after that, generally you go through, you hit another threshold in your origin story that has to do with, let's just say, some people will go through and will ping through Vega. And Vega is like every star cluster has a story, right? And in Vega, what happened is the evolution of consciousness there was, actually I should tell you about, let me tell you about Lyra first. So Lyra, constellation of Lyra, was where a lot of the origin stories of what seeded in this galaxy came from. The Lyrans are the ones that seeded Egypt, right? The lions, like Sekhmet, right? That's like tracking this. So there was a lot of stories that a lot of us will ping back to because we're here to reconcile them. So the purpose of this is to remember who we are and really reconcile galactic consciousness and birth this new layer of reality that we're here for. So in Lyra, that was one of the beginning of this galaxy and the stories of our galaxy. Everything was great. And as always, as people evolve, there's power struggles and, right, like in every story, there's an evolutionary point where there's the good and the bad, right? And it got really bad. So some of the people from Lyra ended up, some of the beings, right, some of the Lyrans, ended up colonizing different stars. This is like stories that will remind you of Star Wars and of Star Trek and all of these other things that were clearly based on, you know, inspired writers and everybody that's downloaded all these stories. So from Lyra and from these like stories of polarity, it was massive polarity, but also such high knowledge. A lot of, who's now incarnated as Lightworker, a part of them, a portion of them, track through Vega. And Vega, the beings that track through Vega, when I see that connection lit up, in Vega, there was a lot of selflessness because it was everybody that developed a colony out of, we don't want to do the heart stuff anymore. We just want to be, everybody loves everybody, like, you know, the 60s children, imagine it that way. Like everybody loves everybody got to be so selfless. And to the point where it was damaging to the self, almost damaging to the soul. So if you're pinging through Vega, what's happening is you're reconciling with a part of yourself. You likely have behaviors in this life that are like you're an overgiver and you do so many things for others and you come last in life. You haven't, like, that's a lesson to reconcile. Right. And then the blessings, the part of you that comes in is the part that has been dislocated, that hasn't been putting yourself first. Once that light comes in, you begin to be the star of your life on planet Earth. You begin to be the main character in the story of your life. Right. So if it feels like somewhere in life, it feels like you're not, you know, you're coming in and it's like, man, it's always about like, I'm in service and I'm doing service, but it doesn't feel alignment. It feels like you're suffering from it. This is the power to claim back the part of you that needs to be merged in, that wants to be merged in, is from that time and space, okay, is from Vega. So once you merge that, all of a sudden you're reclaiming that part of yourself that is safe and like safe enough and brave enough to be the hero of your own journey on planet Earth. And for a lot of people, this is like a huge piece of it, right? So this is why I'm mentioning these. When you start to like reclaim yourself, of course you're like, I am walking the path that I want. I'm safe to dream. I am worthy of my dreams, right? I am here to create, and it starts to shift. Then when you ping to Sirius, the consciousness tracks to Sirius, for example. Sirius is a star that holds the codes of architecture of reality. So it's a more masculine structure, right? When you see light workers, when you see like healers or, you know, coaches that are just like not really structured, and they have all of these gifts, but they're not like, it's like, I can do all of these things, but I want to, you know, I don't know how to pull them together. So there's likely a part of you in a star system that needs to come in and be brought back in that has more structure, a more masculine side, the architecting of reality, how frameworks, like developing frameworks and building new frameworks on this planet, like imagining and, you know, everything that we are structuring in order to live life, again, in higher realms of existence, higher realms of consciousness here on planet Earth. So when you meet your Sirian self and when you work with your Sirian story, like and you start to bring that in, all of a sudden you feel like your magic can flow. This is when you start to feel like you're building an empire, right? Like if that's like a thing where it's like, ooh, I'm not sure how to build it, right? When I reconciled with my Sirian self and when I pulled the records and I signed the contracts and, you know, I brought all of these in, this is divine masculine, but in the way that it was meant, not in the way that it was distorted in the physical. It's like higher orders of consciousness. This is when I started my business and things started like exploding, right? Because I ended up structuring all of the things. This was about 2020. By the time, like, you know, because you have to make room in your body. So the story is, you know, we do the work. And as we continue this progression, you can see how for every star system, you can bring in parts of yourself that have been missing from the body that light up systems of higher functionality in the physical that bless your life in so many ways. Because all of a sudden, you are like, whoo, I have all of this life force energy. I have these memories. I have this knowledge. I have such a wider way of life. Like, one of the things that happens by default when you start doing this work of bringing back the consciousness through your galactic lineage is you don't take things personally, because things on this planet, like, you know, when people get offended or take things personally or criticism, like, it's a non-thing because you have such a wider perspective. And any of you that have had higher consciousness experience that are so expansive and they inspire you and they just like have a way of feeling life-giving and nurturing inside of you so much that you're overflowing joy, you're overflowing life, you're overflowing abundance, like all of the things, then it's easier, right? Like it's like life becomes easier. You don't really pay attention. Like, people can say whatever the fuck they want. Like, you are just so full of who you are, but not in a way that we say here on planet Earth, oh, she's so full of herself, but like actually of who you are, right? So can you see how this is like amazing? And this is so empowering. Now, as you track through, and of course we also get off galaxy, and I gave you just like a few examples. If you track through Arcturus, for example, there's like safety and boundaries. If you track through like Andromeda, you are like a shapeshifter. You can like hang out with any crowd. Like, there's different pieces of you that want to come in. Like, these are giving you, it's so tricky to give like little pieces, right? But you start to get the feel of it. And as you bring these parts back, it's like, oh my gosh, this was always missing. This confidence, this power, this level of awareness, this level of health. It's like health, like as a default with every kind of galactic expansion work that you do, for sure, because we are embodying so much more light, and all of a sudden we're powered up by higher voltage, right? Our body like works on that. So now we're working with fuller DNA strands, fuller capability, and we are bringing into this life the meaning of the whole cosmic, like the whole point of why we're here, which is, right, when we get to it, it's really not just this life. It's really not just like yes, it's great to manifest a house, to manifest the bank account, to manifest like all of the things that we're here, that allow us to, or that, are not even allow us to, but that support us in experiencing an extraordinary life on planet Earth. But there's a higher purpose, and the soul eventually will want this. This is why a lot of people say money doesn't bring you happiness, right? Because if you're not happy, if you're not like connected to who you are on the inside, nothing on planet Earth can do that for you, because you get to bring that part of yourself in. You actually get to be who you are first, and then all of the material things will expand who you are, right? Will broadcast who you are, but none of the material things is what our soul is after. Our soul is after reconciliation with all of these parts, because we got fragmented in time. This was like, now we get into the story of the Star Wars. And for example, those of you that track from Orion, souls that track from Orion, have so much to bring in terms of healing, in terms of reconciling. So the people that track through Orion that have that active link up are in the moment the most conflicted souls. It's so hard to make choices. It's so hard to like feel one way or another about things, because Orion was one of the most flourishing colonies in our galactic system. This was like the trade post. This is like, if you watch Star Wars, right? This is where the wars in heaven were fought, like the biblical stories. And after it got so bad in Orion, like think about the stories of the Empire and like all these different things that we've learned through sci-fis, which were very, very real in so many ways. There was an experiment that was born in order to reconcile consciousness and to bring back, to be able to really bring the whole galaxy into higher, like to explode higher consciousness, liberate higher consciousness, and to harmonize the galaxy. And we are fucking here for it. So Earth, when people say Earth is an experiment, I don't think they understand what the fuck it means in so many ways, because they say it, and I mean that with all of the respect, because a lot of people, in my experience, when they say that in such a negative way, like we're being tested on or something. And that's not true. This was a choice. Earth incarnation was a very precise choice of our consciousness, of our soul, to come in order to reconcile all of these records and actually create such a bomb of consciousness. Like the full divine ascension of planet Earth will create such a bomb of consciousness, like, right, massive explosion of consciousness that will ripple out and broadcast the signal of reconciliation. Like if we do it, like we are shifting the whole entire galaxy and our universe together. And we're not the only ones in this, right? Like our star family is in this. Like this is such a whole bigger picture. But do you see how all of a sudden, if you remember who the fuck you are, like in these other realms of consciousness, and you remember the stories, and you remember like, you know, all of a sudden maybe your medicine journeys make sense. Maybe your vivid dreams make sense. Maybe these like weird experiences that you've had make sense. All of a sudden, life on Earth and these little petty stories that so many humans get attached to and make like, you know, like all sorts of difficult situations out of, like, they're so heavy. It's like, We have been alive for eons of time. We remember, like, when you can hold this massive amount of light and so much consciousness in your body, all of a sudden you look at, I don't know, traffic, family reunions, your bank account, like everything is different because you have a divine perspective. All of a sudden you're looking at things through the eyes of your higher self in daily life. It doesn't require effort because you have done the integration work. You have done the embodiment work. Okay. So we're not bringing parts of embodiments. We're not saying, I want to be this kind of person, and then we bring it in the now. We are actually bringing back the core of who we are, which is the most fulfilling experience, because you get all of yourself back, right? It's like, you know, when people track their ancestors and they find, you know, oh, I am actually, so many people tell me their stories of Italy, because of course you guys know I grew up there. And so they tell me, oh my gosh, I finally tracked my bloodline and my ancestor line to Italy. And I went back to these towns and I understood so much of myself and how, you know, like it was so cool to see the stories and the life and things that I never experienced here, but they're so in my blood. Okay. And imagine what happens when you find what's in your DNA and it unfolds, it unlocks, and it begins to actually be the lymphatic exchange that you have with reality. You begin to unk your energy. You move your energy through all the layers of consciousness, and all of a sudden you're breathing with your entire layers of who you are through the cosmos. You don't fucking doubt that you're here on purpose, that you're here on mission, that you are backed up. You don't doubt your purpose, and that if you know that you need to do something, there's no, like, I don't know, it's so much, no indecision. I don't want to say indecision, because it's not that challenges don't come, but when you're powered by higher self consciousness, I'm in galactic consciousness and divine consciousness. I mean, fuck, do you think your divine self wants you to be like, you know, suffering and in misery and not like with the love of your life and like all these things? Absolutely not. So that's like a default, like your default way of life is like, I deserve all of this. I am attracting all of this, the health, the love, the money, the friends, the freedom. It becomes a default because that has to be the fucking baseline that we build on, because the old systems are over, right? So we start work in these higher consciousness frameworks, and as you embody them and you bring your wholeness, like being whole in this body, this is our goal. We're bringing back all of the parts of who we are to actually live in the physical body. This is divine embodiment. This is the part of ascension where it gets real, right? We're moving through the frequencies, and now we get to bring the fullness of who we are in. And it takes courage. It's like being pioneers of consciousness to actually be open to remembering these stories and bringing them into our body. But then all of a sudden you're walking around on this planet, right? There isn't a place, there isn't a room I've ever walked in. People don't know this, like majority of people don't know this, but I walk into a room, people are like, oh my gosh, you bring so much light. You have like, you're so radiant. Oh my gosh, I need you around. You're so inspiring. I just want to be in your presence, like just being in your aura. Like how many friends are like, I just need some time with you, right? Why? Because the way that you are full of light exudes, right? And now we're shifting from light to flame. And so it's even easier to broadcast your signature and everything out on reality. But it's so much easier because you're supported by all the layers of who you are, who want you to fucking win. So yeah, like your brain is in check, like everything gets to be in check. Your belief systems are easier to rewire. Opening up to possibilities is easier because you're powered by the truth of who you are, and you're seeing things from the eyes of divinity. Like that's a game changer. You know, people talk about tapping into the God zone as like a moment, but that's what we're doing. Like that's the thing that we're doing as an all-time thing. That's our job, to live with our divinity inside of our physical body, right? So do you feel the support of that? Like if your divine self was in your physical body, making choices, walking with you, thinking with you, writing with you, experiencing life with you, like literally making love to your partner, like with you, like, that's a different kind of life. Like you're experiencing like the way you taste food is like amazing. You're like, I can have an orgasm in my mouth right now, right? When everything is so much more meaningful and so much fuller and so much more abundant because you are constantly guided and always aware of like the next steps, right? Lighting up your next steps. So I hope this gives you a glimpse of why this is important. And this is the beginning of the story. So if this is interesting to you, because we've been on this live for a while, I'd set a timer and I reset it twice. So we've been here for a minute. If this is like a conversation that you want to have, let me know in the comments whenever you watch this. And I am like considering doing for the first time a group. Obviously I could talk about this for hours, right? Like, can you imagine how much I've mapped from 2017 when this started coming to me? Like, this is 8 years later. Like, there is so much that is to be reclaimed in the body. So this is why now we are like the royal lineages are coming in. We have like so much more that's opening up. Once we have the link up set up, and once we have started doing this, and I do believe that a lot of people have done this work in different ways without being aware of it, but they've worked on different parts of ourselves. And, and it might show like in the different libraries and everything. But okay, I digress. Like I said, I can talk about this all day. But if this is like something that interests you, the reclaiming of who you are on the higher levels of consciousness to power up your journey, to explode your business, to like increase the love vibes in your partnership, to manifest maybe the partner of your dreams, right? Since then, you guys, when I started learning these things, I was literally like burnt out. I was burnt out. I was in a relationship that obviously was not working. It was toxic. And my health was like all-time low. Like I had so many different like medications and like whatever not. And now, with a bank account that suffered, like with the limitations of cash flow. Now I am like in this incredible relationship. I live in a house that I have a retreat space. Like it's an amazing space. I've been able to hire people, support women, and support like so many beautiful people through my company, through the work that I do. I've been able to bless people across the world. We've been able to do like such extraordinary things. And I could not have imagined this, but this all happened not because I started a business, not because I started working hard or something like that, but because I started bringing in the higher consciousness of who I am, which brought me to a fullness that overflowed, like everything overflowed from who I am. And these, like all of these like manuals, as I always say, like I'm downloading manuals. Like right now I'm downloading new manuals for the way that the flame works in our body and the way that our bones are now resonating with star systems. Like we are pinging to star systems. We're awakening a whole new level of the crystalline light body in our bone marrow. Like, look at how happy I'm even saying, like talking about this. So it's exciting because we get to be who we always like came to be. Like this is an extraordinary physical experience. So in all of this, if I can come back from my ADHD brain and actually like stick with what I'm saying, I am contemplating doing for the first time a mini mind, a galactic origin mini mind, because generally I do this work in one-on-one sessions, and you can book a one-on-one sessions with me. This is why I make them available, so that your mind can be like blown and then you're like, oh my God, I need to do this work, right? Not very many like coaches at this level in their career, right, still take like one-on-ones from like the internet, but I do because I want you to know what's possible for you. Of course, depending on where you are in your financial abundance, it may not be like, okay, I'm going to, book it tomorrow, but you are getting ages of knowledge and the miracles that we can have in a one-on-one sessions are like, because once we track, we can actually do all the work. We can do the rewiring, right? We're dealing with a lot of different tools. So we can do whatever needs to be done in order to shift, the story. And that's why it's a breakthrough, a complete breakthrough in an hour. It's not like a coaching session. It's like truly a soul alignment session, which means more of your soul comes in. And so life gets easier after that, always. And I think we are starting to lose some power. So I'm contemplating doing this in like a mini mind, in a group experience. If you're interested in that, comment, let me know, or DM me. Sometimes I know that some people don't want to be like known publicly. You don't want to comment, just DM me that you're interested in these things. But hopefully you think they're cool now, and you see what they are, and we're over the being in the spiritual closet about these things, and we can be public about it. But I totally understand if you just want to DM me Galactic Mini Mind. Okay. And I think we're going to have it as and in the Galactic Mini Mind, I'll give you obviously more of this framework, more of these details. We'll bring more of yourself in, but also what I do, which I haven't done in a while. Some of you will remember this from the Metaphysical Mastermind that we had back in 2020 through 2022, is we have a group setting where I tune in and I actually read everyone. So I will be able to tell you, everybody will have, 5 to 10 minute one-on-one moment with me, like a hot seat, except we tune into galactic consciousness, and I will tell you what systems you are pinging, right? And what that means for you and your gifts and this embodiment level that you're in. And so it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Some of you would remember. Yeah, we'd love that. Yes. Oh, good. Amazing. Okay. I'm reading through a couple of these. Yay, love the story. Yeah, that's the story that's the true story of our evolution of consciousness. It's wild, huh? What's the significance of our Lyran aspect again, and why we're integrating, receiving from that aspect? Okay, so watch this from the beginning, Katie, my love. And also, I believe you have that in the metaphysics. Everybody that ever bought the Metaphysical Mastermind from me, go back and watch module 3 of Metaphysical Mastermind, and you'll be like, oh my God, this makes sense in a whole new way all over again. Right? So amazing. Yeah. Cool. Let me know, message me, comment. I am so glad we had this conversation, and we'll have more to come as we're opening up new thresholds of this reality. I love you. I believe in you. All the links to all the things are here at Starborn Human. Thanks for joining me. It's Sonia G. So happy to be here live. I'll see you soon.